If you are nervous or anxious about an upcoming interview, let me tell you this. Everybody at some point in their careers will get nervous before or during an interview. It's not a bad thing, of course, but we do need to control our nerves to make sure that we're giving the best account of ourselves in that interview. If you stick with me, we've got lots of very helpful information on how to control your nerves both before an interview and during it. Preparation is key before an interview, as a lot of our nerves stem from the fear of the unknown. We're worried about what they're going to ask, and we're worried about how we're going to respond to it, or if we're not able to respond to it. What I always recommend when preparing is that you write down, don't just keep it in your mind, but write down key things about yourself that you want to make sure you're saying in that interview. This could relate to your experiences that you want to share, your achievements, your qualifications you gained, or some good examples from your past employment or from your studies that you want to make sure you're highlighting in case it showcases certain parts about your character. Also note down some responses to basic questions that they are likely to ask in the interview. I have got videos on this, but as you already hear, the ones that are most likely to come up would include, tell me about yourself, what do you know about the company, why do you want to work here, and can you give me some strengths and weaknesses? Of course, those are just some basic questions. If you would like some more to jot down your responses ahead of time, I recommend looking it up, as this is always going to be good practice to make sure you feel a little bit more comfortable about what you're going to say in the interview. It goes without saying, but the more prepared you are, the more comfortable you are going to feel and the less nervous you're going to feel. So research the company, research the company's products or services, have a look at what competitors operate in their space. That's a really good one to show some deeper knowledge. And make sure that you carefully review the person specification and the job description to see what they are looking for in their ideal candidate and what they're expecting you to do in the role. The next tip, and this always helps me, is to schedule your day around the interview. And specifically, if you can, I'd recommend organising something fun for after the interview. This may be seeing friends or seeing a loved one, or going to the cinema, or whatever you like. The reason I say this is because if the interview is the only big thing that's going on that day, it's going to be much bigger in your mind and you're going to stress about it a lot more. Having something genuinely exciting that you enjoy to look forward to for after the interview is going to make the interview less of a focal point in your day. That's not to reduce how important the job interview is, but it's going to help alleviate the pressure a little bit if this is the only big thing you've got going on. I hope that makes sense. I've probably butchered it, but hopefully you get what I mean. The next tip for dealing with your nerves before an interview is to make sure you have everything out that you could need ready for you before the interview. This could include clothing that you want to wear, as well as any documents that you need to bring for the interview, i.e. presentation materials or your right to work documents. Having everything there and ready to grab for when you're going to leave is going to help alleviate some of the stress. The next tip to help control your nerves is to speak with a friend or a loved one or anyone that can help out to arrange a mock interview. Ask a friend to help you by asking you questions, maybe the basic ones we discussed earlier, so that you can practice giving responses. It's not the same as an interview setting, of course, but it is going to help you articulate what you want to say. It's going to give you practice, and that's always going to help before an interview. Also ask this person to time your responses. If you are coming back with very quick and short responses, then you can take the time now before the interview to practice giving a little bit more detail to really beef out your answer. The other side of that, you might be giving too long responses and taking up too much time with each question, so it might be good to have a little bit of time to condense down your answers. If no one is around to help you, I'd recommend reaffirming your answers, and even if it means talking to yourself in the mirror, just practicing vocalizing what you're going to say. It's going to really help. Okay, so those were some tips and things to remember for before the interview. Let's talk about during, because this is the tricky part. The thing to remember, and this has always really helped me, is that you can change your perception of what the interview is. When we think of an interview, we think of a very daunting interrogation, and in some cases, of course, it is like that. But in your mind, if you view it as a two-way mutual conversation, this is going to really help take the pressure off. Just as the company is there to assess whether or not you'd be a good fit, you are there to assess whether or not it works for yourself with your own needs as a job seeker. It's a good opportunity for you to ask questions as well to see if this role and this opportunity really is right for you. When you view it like this, it really takes the pressure off because it seems a little less like an interrogation and more like a natural conversation. Next point is to really control your breathing and don't be afraid to take pauses. Pausing just before you give a response to give yourself enough time to think is not going to be a problem. If anything, an interviewer would rather that you take some time to really comprehend a good answer you want to give, instead of rushing and just saying anything that comes to mind. Taking deep breaths is going to help alleviate those nerves, and don't forget that an interviewer is expecting you to be nervous. It's not uncommon to be nervous in this kind of setting. Easier said than done, but really try to monitor your breathing and use those pauses when giving responses. Next tip is to not be afraid to ask the interviewer to repeat themselves or to provide clarity on what they're asking. Sometimes interviewers can reword their question, and it really helps when you want to give a good response. Because if you haven't understood what they've said, it's likely that you're going to say loads of different things just hoping to hit the mark, and it's going to be better off if you just take a few seconds to clarify what they're actually asking. I've been in many interviews, and people do ask me to repeat myself or to clarify wording in a question, and I always think it's a good idea. Remember, it's mostly the start of the interview that's the most nerve-wracking, and it's not going to be like that for the whole thing, most likely. When you get into it and the conversation starts flowing and you've got the responses out there, it does help alleviate those nerves. So don't worry, it's not going to be like that the whole time if you're feeling pretty rubbish at the start. The interviewers will hopefully also do their best to make you feel comfortable in that environment, because they would have been in interviews as well, and they know that it is nerve-wracking. Okay, so that's everything we have time for today. I really hope this has helped and you have got some use out of it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, it would mean the world, and comment your thoughts down below. I always make sure that I reply to every comment, so of course if you have got any questions ahead of your interview or after, then please do let me know down below. But otherwise, best of luck with that interview. Have a great day.